This is a Dude Studios production. And hey, I'm the dude.
Back in the day when I was a bartender and server, I never used to eat right. I would generally skip breakfast. I would, grab lunch if there was time. And if there was time, there was very little of it, and just grab some French fries or something just really quick. And then usually when I got home, I was too tired to eat. And I've only found out just recently that that's bad for me, because I still continue that sort of thing to this day. That's why I'm going to tell you guys about Raw Rev. Raw Rev is a nutrition bar that has high-quality plant-based proteins, no soy or whey proteins, nutrition and diet-conscious ingredients, health proteins, fats and fiber, nothing artificial. Real organic dark chocolates and raw superfoods, most delicious and satisfying. And they're great. I keep one of these things in my backpack wherever I go, just in case I get a little bit hungry and can't really stop for anything, or nothing is good nearby. They've got flavors like creamy peanut butter and sea salt. They've got peanut butter and dark chocolate and sea salt. They've got double chocolate brownie batter, birthday cake, and more. Go check out Raw Rev's protein bars. The link is available in the description of the podcast. Raw Rev. No bad stuff. No kidding.
Hey bartender, pass me a drink. A reason that I'm here is I need time to think. All the ways of the world have really got.
Hey, welcome back, people, to part 2 of the 200th episode of Hey Bartender Podcast. So this is technically episode 201, but, who's counting? Me, because I would just said 200, 201, it only makes sense. I mean, it's as intelligent as that Rebecca Black song, Friday. I mean, she basically names off the days of the week. I mean, did she have a kindergartner cousin or something like that help her with the lyrics on that one? Anyway, I shouldn't be talking shit. No, I should. Maybe just encourage her a little bit to try a little bit harder with the lyrics next time. But I shouldn't make fun because I don't write music, and probably never will. I mean, that one dude that wrote Watermelon Sugar, just that catchphrase alone, he's probably got a couple bucks on him. So, good for him. You just got to find that good catchphrase for a song, I guess, sometimes. Hey, speaking of watermelon, actually, it's not that watermelon sugar thing. That isn't the reason why I thought of watermelon drinks. It's summer. It's August. It's getting towards the end of August. Kids are going back to school. And, I just decided I wanted to try something with watermelon, mostly because of an Instagram video I saw of a girl crushing one between her legs. But that's not the point. Calm down. Anyway, this is called a watermelon margarita. Now, this is going to be a blended drink. Sorry, guys. I know how much we hate blenders. But it's a frozen drink, and it sounds like it's pretty fucking cool. Now, the recipe requires a little bit of forethought, according to delish.com. Chop up some fresh watermelon, throw it in the freezer the night before you make the margaritas. This ensures that the drinks are perfectly slushy and ice cold. If you forget, don't fret. 2 hours in the freezer should do the trick. With a drink like this, we think the garnishes are just as important as the cocktail itself. You can rim the glass with salt and garnish with mini watermelon slices and lime, or you can just all out rim the glass with a mixture of sugar and citric acid garnished with watermelon sour candies for a sweet sour twist. So, what you're going to need to make this, first of all, for the rim, you need 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. I don't need to tell you guys that, because we have that little tray that we dip in the lime syrup and then we put it in the. But for the rim, you're going to need salt and sugar and a lime wedge. So the ingredients for the drink go as follows: 4 cubes of chopped watermelon, 1/4 ounce of lime juice, 1/2 ounce of silver tequila, 1/2 ounce of triple sec. 4 watermelon slices for garnish, and 4 lime rounds for garnish. That may be overkill. It might look like that drink in Wayne's World. Anyway, directions go as follows. Place the watermelon on a large baking sheet and freeze until hardened for at least 2 hours. Combine salt, sugar, and lime zest on a small plate and stir to combine. Use a lime wedge to wet the rim of the margarita glass and then drip the rims into the salt mixture. Into the blender. Combine the frozen watermelon, lime juice, tequila, and triple sec and blend until smooth. Pour into a rimmed glass that's garnished with a watermelon and lime round. So that actually sounds pretty refreshing. I actually like watermelon, so that might be something that I might try at a friend's house where nobody can see me using a blender and ruin my reputation as a bartender. Remember, people, if you want to be a part of the show or you just got something to say, all you have to do is email me, dude@heybartenderpodcast.com. I love to talk to new bartenders. I love to help promote bartenders. I even love to help promote musicians out there. So if you got a song out there that you want to get a little bit of airplay, email me, dude@heybartenderpodcast.com. And don't forget to visit heybartenderpodcast.com and check out the merchandise there, listen to past episodes. I'm trying to change things up, find the time to work on it to make things a little bit more interesting, maybe make things a little bit easier for you guys. But I definitely want to hear from you guys because this podcast I developed for the service industry. I developed it for you guys, anybody who works in the service industry. And it's been a lot of fun so far. 200 episodes of this stuff is a huge deal to me. And I'd like to keep this going for as long as possible. So don't be afraid or anything like that. Well, I don't want to say you're afraid because we're bartenders. We're tougher than nails. We can handle anything. But, it's just going to be a conversation. Just you and me, two bartenders talking after shift or before shift and throwing around a couple stories here and there. This podcast is probably one of the few podcasts out there that is not trying to expose anything or everything. Just telling stories, because everybody knows that customers can be nice or can be jerks or can be good tippers, can be bad tippers. And it's just the way we live. Unfortunately, it's not enough for most of us to live a decent, livable wage, but at least we make a couple good friends on the way, right? So anyway, let's get started. The 200th episode was a clip show, and this is the other half of it. My first guest for the other half of this 200th episode extravaganza, celebration, whatever you want to call it, is Chantelle Hyde. Now, if you remember, Chantelle was an episode back in the early hundreds of this podcast. She was actually on episode 64. And I decided I wanted to catch up with her because I didn't want to do like Star Trek and meet somebody and then never talk about them again and realize that they've become this huge problem in the universe because Starfleet forgot to check up on them. And then all of a sudden, Khan's got a hold of the Reliant and is out to destroy Captain Kirk in the Enterprise. I'm sorry I went total geek on that. But if you remember right, from the two episodes, Chantelle is a mother of two, cancer survivor. One of her babies actually being born actually helped her find that cancer tumor, and just in time so so she had time to get better. And she has also become a manager of a restaurant, and she has been a huge voice when it comes to being against domestic violence and encouraging people to get help. So from whatever episode number that was, 174, this is Chantelle Hyde. But you're doing really well now, it looks like.
Yeah, I find the humor in it. There's a silver lining to everything, because if I didn't experience what I experienced, I wouldn't be who I am. So everything happens for a reason, and I believe the universe isn't going to put something in my path that I can't handle. So.
Mm. And you've handled the universe like you're a bitch, so so far.
Like to think so.
Yeah.
I like to think so. There's days that I'm weak and I feel like I can't take anymore, but when it comes down to it, I know I'm a tough bitch and I can handle whatever life throws at me.
Yeah. Greatly admire you for that, and just like in the last time you visited the podcast, I admire your strength to get through all of this, and plus all the added stuff in the last year. And you're still kicking, you're still out there kicking ass, and it's really inspirational. And I hope that some of my listeners can take some of that from you and add that into their lives. I mean, just for fun, if you were to give any advice to women that were having same trouble that you were having, or ballpark area, what do you have any advice for them?
So it's so difficult to say because when it comes to domestic violence and stuff like that, it consumes you. Some of these women really believe that they can't do any better, and it's just a cycle of abuse, and it's sad. There are a lot of women who will never escape, and they will lose their lives because of it. Eventually, that's where it goes. But for the women that are looking to get out, and the grass is greener on the other side. It's hard, it's scary, and you will feel like the floor underneath you has been ripped out, but the grass is greener and there is resources. Even if you feel like you can't talk and no one's listening, someone is listening. I was very lucky enough that I had a really supportive group of friends that already knew it was happening, though I was lying through my teeth to them. They already knew it was happening, and then he started being way more upfront about it and was doing it in front of people. I was launched across my own living room in front of a group of my friends.
Oh my God.
And then toward the end, it was over way before it was actually over. And I actually had met Neil, and he was just there he was there just to support as a friend. And then it ended between dipshit and I, and then things with me and Neil took off fairly quickly. But I was lost the moment I lost myself the moment that I laid my eyes on Neil. So.
The one thing that I often worry about people that have been a victim of domestic violence, male or female, whatever, is kind of the post-traumatic stress. And would you suggest that therapy is a good option? I mean, or maybe not even an option. Would you tell your friends that have been through it, go see a therapist?
Yeah, I was seeing a therapist. Well, and due to COVID, it was over the phone. So I spoke to someone once or twice a week. I had a hotline that I could call because I dealt with PTSD very badly. I was just coming through everything, with facing what I was facing with, my cancer scare, and I had gotten actually sexually assaulted not long after you and I talked the last time, and going through abuse, and it was just like I was at my wit's end, and I was suicidal without being suicidal. Like, I wanted to die but without wanting to die. If that makes any sense. I had too much to live for, but at the same time I didn't want to live anymore. So the therapy helped a lot. There's no shame in talking about what you're going through and reaching out for help, because it's okay to not be okay.
Right. Which is something that some people have a little bit of trouble with, that I've noticed in my wanderings, that people say, no, I'm fine. No, I can't feel this way. I gotta be happy. I gotta stand up straight, even though they're dying on the inside, whether they're suffering from mental abuse or physical abuse. And it's a tough thing to get through, but you gotta, like for example, a guy like me, who would be like, no, I'm fine. I don't need to see a therapist. What's a therapist going to do for me? but actually just getting the stuff off your chest instead of having an inner monologue or waiting for one of your friends to say what's wrong.
Yeah.
Or even having.
I would argue it takes greater strength to admit it
Mm-hmm.
than to keep it under wraps. That's what I used to think. Like, I know I'm weak if I admit this. I'm weak if I show that I'm hurting.
Mm-hmm.
But in all honesty, it takes greater strength to admit that you need help, and it's okay to ask for it. Because, like I said before, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, definitely. So in that episode, Chantelle opened my eyes to a lot of stuff, and found out that a little bit later on, we did talk about it during the podcast, that some of the things that she said in episode 64 actually triggered a fight between her and her former spouse. And God, I felt so bad about it. Still feel bad about it to this day. But it makes me feel so much better that she's been able to get some help, has friends there for her, and she was able to go out and get some therapy, just talk to somebody. That's the big thing. Because just like you just heard just a second ago, most of us refuse to admit that we are having a problem. And some of us, including myself, don't trust psychologists or psychiatrists. But sometimes you really do need it, because all that stuff inside you becomes so toxic and you need to do something with it. So if you are a victim of domestic violence or are having troubles in any way, shape, or form, seek help. It's easy enough to find the local psychiatrist, or just talk to a friend or your parents, and it will get you on a road to making things better. That's what I'll say. This next clip comes from episode 178, Daniel Keaveney. This guy was awesome. The funnest guy to talk to. Since I started this podcast, I wanted to talk to a actual Las Vegas bartender, and I had with Barb, but this guy, he knows his stuff. He is a huge fan of brown liquors. In fact, after the podcast was over, he sent me a couple samples that I still haven't drank yet. Sorry about that, Daniel. Lux Road double barrel aged and a 1792 sweet wheat. Still got these sitting on my desk. Haven't found a reason to drink them yet. I really don't like to drink alone, so that's part of the reason. That, and I don't really drink. But he was gracious enough to send those to me. He also sent me some peanut butter candies, and those disappeared immediately. I had no problem getting rid of those. But this story I found was hilarious, because we got started talking about high-end liquors, and he had a customer that ordered a high-end liquor in a particular way that would give some naturalists, when it comes to liquor, a heart attack. Take a listen. This is Daniel Keaveney. So, did you have to deal with like top shelf liquors when you were bar back or service bartender?
Not too many when you're a service well bartender. Sometimes we get a high roller at one of in the high limit lounge or something like that requests, top shelf liquors, but generally speaking, not much at all.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, even out in front, there weren't too many high-end liquors at regular bars in Vegas, because they all had gaming, and most of the drinks were comped, so they didn't even want that kind of liquor on the bar to entice the players to do anything. They wanted to try to keep their costs low on the bar.
See, that's where I started questioning, working behind the big bar out in the middle of the casino, because everything's comped. As long as you're sitting at a machine gambling, or at a table or something like that, all your drinks are comped. But and I was wondering if there were people that came in and wanted top shelf anything, would they have to specifically request that, or when they're sitting at the, how often does it, I was just curious, how often does that happen? I mean,
it happens occasionally. It depends on the hotel and, how much you're gambling and everything like that. But now the way Vegas is going, all the hotels pretty much have a high limit or a high end cocktail lounge inside of there. And those people that are playing, those that big money, throwing 5-10 grand into a machine, they can afford to go into those high end cocktail lounges too.
Yeah.
But also those kind of players either A, don't drink at all and just drink water while they're gambling, or B, they'll order something neat or just a vodka soda or whatever. They want their Grey Goose and soda, and they don't typically get high-end cocktails at all.
So
I really can't.
Not much call for something like Louis the 14th.
I have a great story about that. When I was at Caesar's Palace, I helped open the lobby bar right there next to the lobby. It was a high-end kind of gaming lounge that they had over there. And one night I had this young 20-something kid come through from the high limit lounge, and he wanted Louis the 13th, but he wanted Louis the 13th with Red Bull as a mixed drink.
Oh, dear God.
Yes. But you see, our shots were $350 a piece.
Yeah.
And he would throw me $400 every time and tip me $50 on every drink. You drink it how you want, buddy.
Yeah, that's all up to you now.
Absolutely. I didn't really care, although it kind of hurt me, to pour Red Bull over a glass of Louis the 14th. But you know what? Or Louis the 13th. But you know what? It was his deal. And that was a very rare occasion.
Now, if you were listening to that very carefully, I kept referring to it as Louis the 14th. It's Louis the 13th. And believe me, people, when you're paying $350 a shot, you don't expect the customer to want to mix it with Red Bull. But the kid was in his 20s. What is he going to do? And he was tipping well. But, oh my God, $350 liquor mixed with Red Bull? Oh, geez. I talked to a number of bartenders whose skin crawled when they heard that story. But like I said, the kid was tipping well, so he's tipping well. He's paying for it. It's his money. He can drink it however the hell he wants. Okay, so this next guest I met on Instagram and TikTok. His name is Tyler Mortensen, sorry. And he has his own banquet bartending business. He travels around and will run a bar for parties and such. This man I found to be inspirational in a way because he is very business oriented and he is able to take himself out of the box. Because we all have that little comfort zone where we won't do this, we will do that, but we can't do this. This guy opened my eyes up to a lot of exercises that I still haven't done yet. Sorry, Tyler. But check out this clip here, and he gives you quite a few bits of information, little nuggets of things you can do just to challenge yourself and make yourself a little bit better. Here's Tyler Mortensen. How has it been for your last year?
It's been, it's funny because before COVID, I was telling everybody that I got in the best shape physically before COVID. Mm-hmm. And now since COVID, I got in the worst shape physically, but in the best shape mentally.
Little give and take there, I guess. Yeah.
So, but no, it was good. It gave me an opportunity to really dial in what I wanted to do and really dial in what I'm doing. That, and really help me dial in the media aspect of the company of what I wanted to do. It gave me an opportunity to read more and tune in my consulting skills and management skills. Like I'm real big on like discipline, respect, integrity, all of that. And that's one of the things when I go in and I talk to bartenders and owners and stuff, that's one thing I really push is like integrity and respect. And, my wife, she's in an industry where she's management too. And she'll talk, she'll come home and, and I'll say, well, sometimes the employees are the way they are because you allow them to be that way. You know, and that's a tough pill for people to swallow when you say, you know, your business is failing because you're not a good boss.
Right.
And, you know, sometimes you have to be comfortable having those uncomfortable conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things I really, really learned during COVID. Like, get comfortable having uncomfortable conversations.
Right.
And the way you do that is you just start, I call it cold calling people in the grocery store. When you're in the grocery store, just cruise up. Hey, how's it going? How's it going?
Oh,
you know,
okay.
Nice dress, nice shoes, nice tie. How's your day? You know, like, and I wouldn't do it as how's the weather, because like we're in a grocery store. We've all been outside, so we know what the weather's like.
Mm.
So, you know, hey, how do you pick out your oranges? Oh, this is the technique that my grandmother told me. Or how do you pick out your watermelon? Oh, you thump it, or you look for the dark green, and and then you encounter the people that don't want you to even look at them.
Mm.
And then that's when you really have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, that would be a stretch for me, just to walk up to a random person and say, "Hey, how's it going? Nice shirt." You know, just because I am who I am. But you know,
right.
It's something that I always strive to work on, even though I'm 44 years old now. But something I should have worked on back in high school.
Yeah.
But those are.
But it's cool. It's just that's the stuff that's what I've learned. That's what I've taken from it. And the fact that I have neighbors that are in higher level jobs, that are in corporate jobs, that have their own businesses, and we can sit and talk about, you know, hey, you've hit this curve of complacency. You know, how do we get out of it? You know, I was sitting at the bar one night and I had a neighbor come down and he's like, I just don't have it anymore. I don't feel the passion anymore. It's like, dude, you've hit that curve. Like, you know, you build that anticipation to get things going, and then things go and they start going uphill. And then you get to the top and you're like, damn, I made it. Mm. And then you get complacent. And then what happens when you get complacent? You start going back down. So you got to feed the fire that's going to put you back on top.
Mm.
And that's where the discipline for me comes in, is getting to the point where I don't want to be complacent.
Right.
I want to stay on that high. That's how I want to be. And so when I'm talking to the neighbors and other people in the business, that's where I want them to be back on that high.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where the most fire in you comes from, is when you're at that. Like, you know, when you go to a concert and for the next 4 days, you're like, yeah, I'm going to mosh on every person I see. And, you know, that's the high that you get when you're at the top of that curve.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think everybody needs to be. And
the low would be trying to stage dive and they part like the Red Sea.
Exactly.
Now, this Tyler has a very, very strong social media presence. You can check him out on TikTok. You can check him out on Instagram. He's got some good videos. His Refrigerator Chronicles, he starts off the day basically opening up the refrigerator, grabbing something to drink, non-alcoholic, and telling you something that you are better than you think you are. And he's trying to help go out and encourage people. And he has been a very strong supporter of Hey Bartender Podcast. He actually did a lot of research before coming on the show and was heavily prepared to be on Hey Bartender Podcast, and I was so grateful for that. This next clip is a special clip in many different forms. This is from episode 182, interview with Ashley Cardinal. Now, Ashley is from Alberta, Canada. She is the first Canadian that I've ever interviewed on this show. I ran across her on TikTok, and she had her own version of Bartender Stories. And usually when I look for people on TikTok or Instagram, I check out, you know, how energetic they are. Do I think they're going to be chatty? And this woman had it in droves. And as soon as I saw her personality, I was like, I gotta get her on my show. And she agreed to it wholeheartedly. Now, what makes this episode so special is because she informed me a lot of things that Canada and America have in common when it comes to the service industry. Because I've had other people from other countries be on this show, and they tip differently. Even in the United States, people get tipped differently or paid differently. That's the scary part. So check out this clip from Ashley Cardinal. So tipping is as important in Canada as it is here in the United States. Because I had an interview with a guy from England, and tipping isn't done there at all.
No, because they pay a livable wage.
Right, exactly. And but here in the United States, and I guess where you are in Canada, where tipping has become part, it's not just a well, back when tipping first started, it was just to ensure prompt service. That's the literal dictionary.
It was a gratuity.
Yeah.
It was gratitude for good service.
Right.
And now it is supplement for people's income.
Yeah, we kind of need it. And
You do.
and
Yeah.
so it is the same thing up there.
100%.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. I've actually received emails, and mostly people from Europe, that say that they have livable wages, they have medical benefits, they have things like that. And I'm just like, we don't have that here.
We need to take some pages out of those books.
Yeah.
And you know what? Everyone's like, oh, well, would you be fine paying $10 a drink and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? The fact that we have to pay somebody's living wage when they're already working, we already have to supplement their income. And it's not even just it's not a gratuity anymore. It's a need. If somebody doesn't tip, that person can't pay their bills. That person can't buy their fucking groceries. And then on top of it, there's the tip out. I don't know if you guys have that in the States.
In certain restaurants, but please explain it.
In every restaurant, every place in Canada, you have a percentage of your sales goes to a tip out for the rest. So for example, for your cooks in the back who already get a livable wage, by the way. For your bus boys, okay, so their minimum wage, yeah, okay, you want to give them a little bit, that I get. In some places, management, yeah,
Really?
yeah, you pay management to fucking work. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's so wrong. But so usually it's about anywhere between 5 and 10% of your sales, not of your tips. So if somebody doesn't tip, let's say you have a $100 bill, 10% of that $100 bill, you're going to be tipping out.
Right.
So if you don't get a tip, that comes out of your pocket.
Yeah.
It's bullshit.
That sucks. Yeah, really bad.
Yeah. It's not okay.
10% of your sales, that can be harsh. I mean, you do, I don't know, say $500 in sales that night, but you won't, an average tip of that 20%, that $100. But that's assuming that everybody tipped you 20%. Some people tip 10 or 15 or less.
Yep.
That can really end up hurting by the end of the night. Do you ever go in the negative?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep. I have on several occasions. Literally doing my tip out, doing my cash out. I give them money for all of the food that came out. That's fine. All of the blah, blah, blah. And I end up having to go into my bank account to pay at the end of the night.
Oh, that's got to be a horrible night then. Where
It's awful.
you go home and you're just, now that gives you the right to say it's been a bad day.
Yes.
I mean,
when you literally have to pay to go to work, yeah, it's a shitty fucking day.
I mean, there's been nights that I can think of where one guy tried to pick a fight with another guy in the bar, and then he basically bitch slapped me and then tried to get me to punch him back. I didn't, but that would be a bad night. But I also made like 35% versus my sales and tips. So I was, I got hit, but look how much money I got. I'm happy,
Yeah. And you get more good nights than you do those nights. So I will say that there are definitely better nights than, and for a long time, the minimum wage in Canada, I mean, it only changed after I stopped being a bartender, but the minimum wage in Canada was different than the minimum wage for servers.
Right.
There was a huge gap. And that's fucking ridiculous. That's so stupid. Like, I can tip my Starbucks barista. That's fine. It's not going to affect her livable income.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Well, here, all the jobs that I ever worked, though, there was a wage difference between servers and bartenders, but the bartenders got paid a couple extra bucks because typically when I showed up for the night shift, the manager would say, okay, I'm out of here. And then all of a sudden I'm in charge, have to make all the hard decisions and all that stuff. So they gave the bartenders a couple extra bucks just because we're technically the manager at that point. So was that kind of the same thing, or bartenders got paid less than server wages?
Same across.
Oh.
Everybody got the same.
Oh, okay.
Everybody got the server minimum wage, which when I started serving was $8.10, and the minimum wage for everybody else was $9.25, and then the minimum wage got bumped up to $10.11. Woohoo! Stayed the same for us.
Yeah,
didn't change. That's fine.
But it's not the same thing all over the United States, because I've talked to other bartenders that like work in like say New York, and they either get paid $2 an hour, which is at current the federal minimum wage, or they don't get paid hourly at all. They work strictly for their tips.
Oh, my heart goes out to those ones.
Yeah,
it really does, because and especially with, you know, the recessions and people struggling already to make their bills, they're less likely to tip you. And realistically, we should not be forcing the general public to pay our livable wage. It should be coming from our employers.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're our employers. So to whatever states are doing that to their servers, they should be fucking ashamed of themselves, because that's disgusting.
Now, after hearing about all these stories of hearing people that they have to tip out their busser, their bartender, their she even mentioned the cooks and even managers she had to tip out. Now, it's all becoming crazy. And all of a sudden, I got this crazy idea just the other day, because I was thinking about doing this podcast, and I was setting up all these clips, and I was thinking there has got to be a way for these servers and bartenders that have to basically finish off paying the rest of the wages for the rest of the restaurant to write that off as a business expense. Now, if there's any bartenders, servers, or anybody that listens to this show that knows how to do taxes and stuff like that, I want you to look that up and get back to me. I would love to have you on the show, and let's discuss that for a little while. And one more thing about Ashley, how amazing this woman is she brought in half of Canada, basically, to listen to that one episode. She is currently my second all-time most downloaded episode. And she's been a huge help to keep me on my goals for this year. And it was a great show. She's hilarious. And if you ever run into her and you want to sing karaoke with her, Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Go for it. Oh, and if it's not too much trouble, video it and DM it to me. I want to watch. Now, this next clip from episode 183, interview with Dana Bollen. We went off track. We were talking about bartending and serving and stuff like that. But like I've told you guys before, I love rock and roll. I'm a pop culture junkie. And he and I kind of went off track a little bit. Actually, a lot. Completely, just completely derailed. And we started talking about rock and roll. And we actually had a story in common. And this was my favorite clip of the show. Check it out. I got on eBay, bought some floor tickets. And I went over to my dad and I said, "You want to go see The Who?" And he's like, oh, well, why don't you ask one of your friends if they want to go first? Because he thought, you won't have as much fun if you take me. And I was like,
This is so funny.
I don't want to take you. I don't want to take a friend. I want to take you. And eventually,
Oh my God.
eventually I told him, well, none of my friends can make it. You're going to have to go with me because otherwise it's money wasted. And he's, my mom's like, go. And he ended up having the time of his life. And he had never heard the song, The Single Eminence Front before. And
Oh, it's my favorite Who song.
yeah, he'd never heard that song before. And
I'm cracking a beer.
yeah, we'll call that the ASMR portion of our show.
There we go.
But
Eminence Front, that's my favorite Who song.
yeah, I got stupefied by the lava lamps that they had on the LCD screens behind the Who. So I didn't know really what was going on, and I wasn't stoned or anything.
That's what they were there for, brother.
But as soon as the song ended, my dad went, "Wow!" And what I missed? What happened?
Yeah, man. Wow. No, but what's so funny about you saying that is because I brought my parents to see the Who on that same tour.
Yeah.
And my parents hate concerts. They hate crowds. They hate all of that bullshit. But the one thing that I don't even know where I get my love for music from because I'm obsessed with classic rock. I mean,
Me too.
like my mom loves the Beatles. My dad loves the Stones. They both love the Who. They both love Led Zeppelin. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
Now, so when I bought these tickets for the Who, it was me and my girlfriend at the time, and I bought 2 more tickets for my parents, and I brought them, and they were like, geez, like, I don't want to go. My dad's like, he's like, I saw Bob Dylan once in Seattle back in, 1980, and it was terrible, and I never wanted to go to a concert since then. And I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, I'm trying to do a nice thing here. I bought tickets. Just fucking come. Just come. I bought the tickets, please. You know what I mean? It was fucking ridiculous. I had to drag them there.
Mm.
So they come. They left before the encore, but I got them to go. But same situation. And then a few years later, now my dad, again, he's obsessed with the Stones. And I've always wanted to see the Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones tickets, this was probably 8 years ago. I mean, it was like $400 for like the cheapest, for balcony nosebleeds. And they were coming around Boston right around Father's Day or my dad's birthday. I was just like, hey, Dad, I want to take you to see the Stones. Like, like I'm about to buy 2 tickets out. Like, I got a thing right now. Do you want to go? He was just like, no. He just didn't want to. I'm like, all right, you saved me $800, but he just literally didn't want to go.
Yeah.
I was kind of sad, but I was kind of like relieved. Like I was like, all right, I saved $1,000, between tickets and beers and train tickets and whatever. But going back to what you kind of had to drag your dad there, right? Like,
No, sort of. Once I told him that none of my friends wanted to go, not that I really tried hard to get my friends to go because my heart was set on taking him.
Right.
He was just, all right, I'll go. And we had, took the train there, and he was worried. He brought earplugs because he was worried about the noise being too loud. I refused earplugs because I wanted to experience the Who. But he didn't wear the earplugs. He had a great time, and had some memories of certain songs and stuff like that, and it was a great time for both of us.
The cool thing about Dana is he was able to put up with me telling that story, and because I think I kind of took over a little bit, but he was awesome to talk to. We have stayed in touch ever since because he and I are both podcasters, and he and I are kind of sharing information back and forth of what do you do when this happens? What do you do to do this? He's a really cool guy to stay in touch with. But the thing that is so cool about that guy is he has no problem that he refers to himself as a hype man and a cowbell player. He hangs around a band and he jumps up on stage and starts playing cowbell for him. That's just cool. Now, the next guest that I brought on the show is from episode 185 with Alex Torres. Alex Torres, she caught my attention because she was posting a lot of stories on how she was being harassed and mistreated and all this stuff at the restaurant she worked at. And it was just a horrible story. And some of this stuff I really felt that she needed to get brought out into the public, even though right now she is doing one hell of a job doing it. Go check out her Instagram and her TikTok page. But I asked her specifically for advice for people that are having trouble in their workplace. And here's what she told us. Well, real quick, do you have any advice for people that work in the service industry? Because it can be anybody that are going through some kind of harassment or going through some kind of hardship. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, do not let big corporations silence you. We have rights. You have every right to speak up for yourself. And if you get fired for speaking up against yourself, that is retaliation. Report it to the labor board, report it to the EEOC, and get yourself a lawyer who will only take money if you win. Also, you can go and look up how to be like a whistleblower or whatever, and then you can report that too, because you are protected by what is it? I was just looking at it, but it's ethics. Like, you are allowed to expose companies for the illegal shit or wrongdoings or toxic environment. You're allowed to speak on all of that. And a lot of people have been pretty much brainwashed to think that you can't speak up. No, you can't say anything. They're going to sue you. They're going to sue you for defamation. They're going to sue you for slander. As long as you're not lying. If you are not lying and you're not saying like, this person, did this to me and then, they didn't do anything, like, or whatever, or they're making me work hours off the clock and they really weren't doing that, then you have nothing to worry about. Like, you are allowed to speak up for yourself. And you know what? Take everybody in Hollywood and everything that is happening in the world right now as an example that we are allowed to speak up for ourselves. We have been used, misused, and abused for way too long. We get treated like literal shit. Like, we are so replaceable. They tell us all the time, you're a dime a dozen. You're a dime a dozen. You're so replaceable. We're so replaceable. Why can't you open your doors now? You can't open your doors because you need us. So fucking treat us with respect. Stand up for yourself. Don't let people walk all over you. Don't let people harass you, and say something. And if you go to HR and corporate and they don't do something about it, go above them, because HR is only there to protect themselves, their boss, and their paycheck. They don't give a fuck about you. Do you think they care about you? They don't care about you. But if some people who actually follow the rules of HR, great. But if you do it and they ignore you, like everybody who has been messaging me from Chili's, we have the power. Let me tell you, all these corporate greed, all these places have taken everything from us, literally everything. We have no unions. We have no pensions. Are we even going to get our Social Security? Taking our 401ks. They've taken every single thing. Boomers have taken everything from us. So shut the fuck up, because now it's our turn. You can't take anything from us. We have nothing. We have so much debt because of you. We have no money. We can't barely survive. The only thing that we can do is stand up for ourselves and make a change. So stand up for yourself, because if we keep listening to them, we're never going to change how we want the world to be. So stand up for yourself and say, I'm not putting up with this shit anymore. What are you going to do? What are you going to take from me? You have nothing to take from me because you haven't given me anything. You take and you take and you take and you give me nothing. So now I'm going to take from you. So that's why I started saying all this shit on my TikTok, because I'm like, the only thing I have is my voice. And I have a social media platform and I'm going to fucking use it. And that's the one thing that they don't know how to do is social media. They don't know what the fuck they're doing, because now this is our turn. This is our generation to change things. And if we want to do it, we can do it. We don't have to keep following this shit, because it wasn't always like this. The world was not always like this. We can survive on our own. We can farm. We can support local businesses. We can trade. We can do things with each other as a community. We don't have to give our money to corporations. They have just taken over with their fucking greed, their businesses. They've taken over the world, and it's over. Their time is gone. Like, we do not need them anymore. We can do this on our own. We can do it. Like, we just have to come together as one, support each other, and get it done. Fuck them. Fuck all them. I'm over it. I'm like, they can all burn in hell. Their time is done. They got their money. They can go. They can go rot with their money. That's all they cared about.
Definitely. Wow.
That's it.
That was powerful.
Thanks. Sorry.
You are a very intense woman.
Get I'm like, you guys, stand up for yourselves. Like, people think they don't have a voice. I'm like, you have a voice. Don't let these people intimidate you and threaten you.
Especially
Fuck them. No job is worth your sanity and your health. I have had messages of people telling me they were in the hospital because of how stressed they were. They were in a psych ward. They were on suicide watch because of fucking chilies, actually. And I'm like, first of all, thank you for still being here. But second of all, don't ever let a job get you to that point. Because I assure you, you will be okay. You will be okay. Put yourself first. You are more important than money and a job. Because these people do not care about you. I had a cook that got murdered, and nobody even fucking said a word about him. I was like, hey, does anybody know where this cook is? Oh yeah, he was murdered. I'm like, we're just gonna ignore it after he slaved away for this place? Nobody acknowledged it. I'm like, you died for this place, and they don't give a shit about you. Do not let them do that to you. You are more important than these places. You have to set your boundaries and your standards for them to treat you how you want to be treated. Don't let them walk all over you.
Yeah. You said it. I got nothing to add to that. So. And that was the truth. After she was done, she talked with so much passion, and she was talking very fast. I honestly had nothing. I couldn't comment on it. I couldn't wrap that part of the conversation up. I had nothing because she is just very passionate on getting the word out there, helping other people out. And she, honestly, I think she can beat me up. She could beat me up, and it would hurt really bad. Now, I'm not saying she's the violent type, but just in case, I want to stay her friend. I want to make sure that she and I are friends. But that's the deal with social media nowadays. You know something, you've been part of something. You put the word out there because there's a bunch of people out there who are afraid to take to social media and express their feelings on something or talk about something that happened to them in order to avoid it to happen to other people. Now, there are some voices out there that are louder than others, but it's important that you stick up for yourself and know that you don't have to be treated that way. And if you listen to her podcast, the podcast that she was on with me, she will tell you that, and she will tell you that in droves. Okay, so this next clip is with Danielle Motley from episode 191. She's an actress. She is a comedian. She was really fun to talk to. We got into a lot of her stuff that she does on TikTok, where she kind of pokes fun at the restaurant industry because she was there, and she's using her experiences plus the experiences of other people in order to make her videos. And she was just a lot of fun to talk to. This particular clip, though, she let me indulge myself in talking about the movie Waiting. You guys know I bring that movie up constantly. But she was really cool about it. So here's a clip from episode 191 with Danielle Motley. Now, your subject of server self-care, that video.
That's my favorite video.
I have to say that's my favorite, too, because I watched a whole bunch of your TikToks this morning before contacting you. And the whole bit of screaming in the walk-in or crying in the bathroom. Actually, it was probably all in the walk-in in the restaurants that I've worked at, except for the smoking. We all went out to the dumpster. But how did that all come up? Did you just suggestions from your friends, or was that based on experience?
No, that one was, well, based on experience, but also that was actually inspired from the comments. Someone had commented on one of the videos, and they wrote, and sometimes you just need to go scream in the walk-in. And I was like, oh my God, yes, you do. And then I thought about it, and I was like, oh, this will be good. Let me do a TikTok of the things that you do need to do to get through your shift. And, you know, take fake smoke breaks even if you don't smoke, and I took up smoking briefly just to go out and smoke with the servers to get through the shift because that nicotine helps to make it easier. I don't smoke at all. That's where that one came about. And they pulled it down for a little while. It went to TikTok jail for 2 days saying it violated the community terms. And I'm like, no, it didn't. This is my favorite. Put it back up. I think maybe they thought I was promoting smoking weed.
Oh.
Or something, even though it was clearly a cigarette. It was my one prop cigarette that I have in my house.
But just the whole thing of how during the shift you have to, just burn off that energy somehow. I mean, like, I reference the movie all the time on my podcast, the movie Waiting, starring Ryan Reynolds. To me, that movie is probably the most accurate depiction of working in a restaurant in any movie. And, I agree. But there's that one girl that when she's in the back doing the prep table stuff or talking to the cooks, she's just swearing up a storm, screaming at everybody. But as soon as she hits the floor, she's all smiles and talking to the customers. And we all do things like to blow off steam. Like I've gone into the walk-in and punched a box of lettuce or something like that just because I was freaking out. And it was the softest thing because I didn't want to punch a keg and break my hand or something.
But no, I agree. Waiting came out my senior year of high school when we were working at Ruby Tuesday. So my friend and I, who both worked there, went to see it, and we lost our minds because it was so accurate. It was and we were like, "That's that person at work, and that's that person at work." It was so good. And yes, Alana Ubach, she's an amazing actress, and she's so funny. Who plays that surly character? And it's very, very accurate. I would also have to go in there to cool off because I would get so hot. At the Italian restaurant I worked at, we had to wear like really tight, large, heavy button-ups, and the AC didn't cut it when you're running around back and forth in the kitchen.
But yeah, you go out of sight of the customers, and God fucking damn it!
Yes, yeah, just sit in the walk-in, take a breather. Ugh.
But I watched that movie when I was still a bartender, and I was just like, I told all my friends, every single aspect of that movie I can vouch for, except for the part where the cooks screw with the food. I can't vouch for that because I never saw it. I don't know if it happens, at least not with any of the people I worked with.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it happen, but I know it does happen because people have talked about it happening.
Yeah.
And then they've seen it. So, I can't vouch for the whole show your balls part, I guess.
No, none of my restaurants, we never played the game. Yeah.
There was a lot of towel whipping.
Yes.
That happened a lot. Towel snapping, which hurt.
Yeah, we never played the game in any of the restaurants that I worked at. Well, probably mostly because I think on the employee ratio, it was like 2, maybe 3 girls to every guy in the employees. So we were outnumbered, so we were somewhat respectful.
That's good. Yeah, I don't think that would fly nowadays.
Although most of the girls were way worse than any of us could have ever been. So. Now, the cool thing about Danielle was that she gave me a lot of insight in where those stories came from. And if you want to see her videos, they are really funny. Go check out her channel on TikTok, Cringeworthy Comedy. She's got a lot of great videos and stuff like that, and a lot of very funny yet very relatable stories of working in the service industry. Take my word for it. Go check it out now. Okay, so this next clip comes from episode 193 with Rachel Golem. Now, she caught my attention because she was talking stuff about the service industry and other stuff on social media and TikTok. But I actually found out that she offers actually some very cool services on Fiverr. And here's a clip of what she does. And you know what? Check this out. So nowadays, you said that you're working for Fiverr?
Yeah, so I'm a recruiter, and then I have a Fiverr.
Now you'll have to tell me what that is. Even though this is not a paid advertisement, but you'll have to tell me what exactly it is and what you do.
So Fiverr is like a freelance website. It's great for anybody who just wants to freelance anything. Like you can literally do anything on there. You can ghostwrite. You can do digital designs for people. You can write ebooks for people. Like anything that you think of that you can do as a service, you can put it on Fiverr and you can sell that service. Obviously, like accounting and stuff like that would be for an OnlyFriends account. But anything else that's not in an accounting position, you can put on Fiverr. Like what I do is I have 3 on there. So I have prepping for interviews where I will get on a Zoom call with you. I'll go over all the questions that they would ask you, the questions that you need to ask. I'll critique your responses so that you can have the best responses, tell you all the things about the company that you need to know going into the interview. I'll even help you pick out what to wear.
Cool.
Yeah. And then I also have 2 fun ones. One is just like a listening session. Like I'm not a coach or a therapist, but I've been through some shit. So like I put on there that like if you buy a service and I'll sit for 20, 30 or 60 minutes and I'll just listen to you rant, or we can make fun of your ex or all that other fun stuff. And then the last one I do is I'll call you and get you out of any social situation. Like if you're at a party and you no longer want to be at a party, then you just hop on there and get a hold of me, and I'll, for $5, I will call you and act like a relative and be like, no, there's an emergency. I need you to come home right now. There was even a girl last week that asked me to call her boyfriend and break up with him for her. Luckily she changed her mind, but I was like, oh, okay.
Oh my God.
Do it. But I was like, oh, that's new. I wasn't expecting that one.
So are you allowed to, do you want to tell people how much you charge for these services? I kind of see the whole calling to get them out of a situation becoming very popular nowadays because, it was a couple episodes ago, I did an episode called Angel Shot, which is a code word in bars and restaurants if you were on a first date and in a nasty situation, or the guy's getting creepy or the girl's getting weird. You can order an angel shot and the bartender will help you figure a way out. Like you say you ordered an angel shot and the bartender will go behind the bar, disappear, come back, hand you a napkin and a cigarette, and you open up the napkin and it says, tell them you're going to go smoke this. The Uber's already waiting outside. So like I can see that you helping people get out of situations becoming really popular in this day and age of Tinder dates and online dating. That would become really popular.
Yeah, and I'm always like, I mean, it could be even with family. Like I definitely go into social situations like I have a cap. I just like, you hit that social cap and then you're done for the evening. And sometimes there's not always a good segue. Cause like with my best friend, like I'd tell her like, hey, LaToya, like I need to go home. And we're comfortable enough to where we can both do that with each other. We just give each other this look like I'm ready for bed, because we both got to be in bed by 10 because we can't do it. But like if I'm out with somebody that I've only gone out with a couple times, or, I'm with family and I don't want to be rude and hurt somebody's feelings, then it's just a great opportunity to be like, hey, can you get me out of this, please? And Tinder dates, especially, like if you're on a weird date, you got to go. Yeah. And I will 100% help somebody out and get them the heck out of a date, because it's just so uncomfortable sometimes and you just don't know what to say. And there's like, obviously I never had a need for a Tinder because I've been with my husband for almost 8 years.
Oh, sure.
No, over 8 years.
Yeah.
And I think that was even before Tinder came out, maybe not. But I never really needed that. But I can imagine, especially with Tinder, like you just meet somebody, you've only talked to them a little bit, and then you go out and you're like, oh, this is not where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So here to help a friend out.
That's brilliant, if you ask me. But
thank you, I appreciate that. So yeah, that's only $5 for, because the cheapest you can go on Fiverr is $5. That's only $5. I think there's an extra $5 fee if like you need it like ASAP. Because what I ask people to do is, because you have to fill out questionnaires when you get a service on Fiverr. And I have questions like, who am I pretending to be? What kind of emergency is like feasible for your life, and stuff like that, so that I can tell a lie that isn't like outlandish, so that people around you will believe it if it's somebody you're close to. But I like to know like a day in advance and like what time and stuff that I need to be calling if they need it. But for an extra $5, I'll be on call and just do it whenever you need. And then the listening to you event, it's like $15 for it's $10 for 20 minutes, $15 for 30, and then $30 for 60 minutes. And the $15 one, I was going to make, I think I was going to make that one a little more like originally, but that one is essentially catered to moms. Like if you just need 30 minutes to blow off some steam, because a lot of stay-at-home moms, like I work from home, and I know sometimes like don't get me wrong, I would never trade a minute with my daughter, but sometimes I'm just like, I've been talking to a baby all day.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't get any adult interaction. So that one is really what that one's catered to. But yeah, 10, 15, and 30 for event sessions. And then the interview services, it's like a full mock interview. So
no, that's very valuable. I like that idea.
And I've done 100 plus interviews, and now as a recruiter, I prep people for interviews all day long. So I have plenty of professional history in getting people ready for interviews. But that, it's like you get 30 minutes of my time for $25, 60 minutes for $50, and then 90 minutes for $75. And they all kind of step up in like how quickly you can get them, and like all the things that I'll cover, and like how in depth we'll go. So yeah, those are the prices for them. But I'm really excited about it. I just kind of got it started. I haven't been advertising a whole bunch, just because I'm new to freelancing. So I don't know. I'm just excited. But I wanted to say that if anybody that listens to this podcast like wants one of those services, if they message me on Fiverr, just the words "Hey Bartender," I'll take off like 20% of their service fee.
Oh, awesome. Okay, people, you heard her. I'll figure out a way to put the link when I post this show. And in fact, do you have a link that they can go to?
Yeah, I can send it to you right after we get off the call.
Cool. Yeah, we'll do all that, and and you just mentioned Hey Bartender Podcast or Hey Bartender, whatever you decide to do, and get money off it and get this invaluable help. It sounds like.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I mean, I can picture some of these mothers calling you up saying, screaming, "I'm so sick of Baby Shark." But
yeah, or Coco Melon or all of it. Yep. I got you, friend.
Nowadays, everybody kind of needs a little bit of a side hustle, especially since a lot of us have been locked into our houses for the last year or whatever. And so developing some kind of services where you can do mock interviews or get help with your interviews, or I especially love that call you to get you out of a situation type of thing. I thought those were just fucking brilliant. And it was just interesting that it was a unique view of what to do that I've never talked to anybody about that sort of thing before. And the stuff that she decided that she wanted to do on Fiverr was very unique to me and very helpful. So everybody out there who is listening, just remember she's out there and available and ready to help you out in one way or another, whether you just need to vent, you need to get out of a situation, or you need to get through an interview, be more comfortable before you get there. If you want to find out where her page is on Fiverr, the link is in the description of episode 193. And when you contact her, mention Hey Bartender Podcast. She'll give you a little discount. Okay, so moving on. This next clip comes from episode 195. It's the interview with Tanya Fritsch, who is the author of Just the Tip, The Ins and Outs of the Industry. Now, she contacted me and asked me if she could promote her book on my podcast. And I was like, absolutely, come on in. And, Mike, usually when people ask me if they can promote their book on my podcast, I usually say, can I read it first so I have something to talk to you about? And she sent me, I got onto Amazon and read the first couple chapters of it, a sample. And I found it fascinating and funny because it starts at the very beginning. She doesn't try to say, well, my first day behind the bar. No, she goes all the way back to when she watched her mother be a server at a restaurant. And it's funny, it's relatable. So this clip, she talks about how all of a sudden one day she just decided, I've always wanted to write a book, and she was in quarantine at the time, and she just decided, I'm doing it. So check this out. This is from episode 195 with Tanya Fritsch. All of these stories start compiling. Did you just, was it stuff over years that you just stories that you collected over the years, or did you just sit down on a computer and just go to town?
It was stories I collected. So when I was like 19 or 20, I was just working a day shift somewhere. I was still serving at the time. And I loved to write. And I always said I wanted to write a book. And then literally in my mind, I said, well, what are you going to write about? You don't know anything. I mean, not like you're not, you know, you don't have a specific thing that you're very knowledgeable about. And I said, oh my gosh, it just clicked. I was like, you can write about this. This is the one thing you're super knowledgeable about, is serving and working in the industry, because you've been doing it since high school. So I started writing out my stories, and they always say, write what you know. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but it's a big writer thing. If you can write what you know, you'll write a book, you know.
Yeah.
But I started writing my stories down in a notebook. I still have my notebook. They're all handwritten. And it wasn't until I was a few years later, I put it on the computer, and I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't know how to publish it. I didn't know how to go about that at all. And honestly, during COVID was when I sat down and I said, you've always wanted to put this book together, but you keep coming up with excuses. You're so busy. You're so this. Are you going to do it or not? You know, you keep saying you don't know how. Find out how. So I had a lot of time during COVID to do this.
Absolutely.
And I started researching how people publish books, how you could go the self-publisher route if no one picked up your book, how to find an editor, how to find a cover designer. And I literally went through all the steps, and I said, before COVID is over, I want to release this. And I released it right. Obviously, we're still going through COVID, but, you know, through the lockdowns. And right when we're coming out of lockdown is, I think, like a month later, I had it ready to go, released. And it was super exciting. So just to see my notebook now, and then to see, you know, my regular book, I'm like, wow, it's still weird. I have people come into my bar asking me to sign it, and it's so cool because it's like my book.
Really? You have fans come in and ask you for autographs and stuff?
Oh yeah, I've had like 3 bars ask me if I want to do a book signing, and I haven't done it yet because I've never done a book signing. And you know, at first I'm thinking it's nerve-wracking. I'm like, is anybody going to show up? Is this going to be weird? And then I decided I don't care if anybody shows up because we're at a bar and I could still have a good time. And I'm surprised that I asked a lot of people. I said, if I had a book signing, would you show up? And a lot of people said yeah. So I think it's because the city I live in too is the bartending scene is very close-knit, and everybody knows everybody. So when you know someone wrote a book, you're like, I want to get my picture and the signature because I know you. And, you know, if you do more stuff, I want to say, hey, I was in that time with you. So it's Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where I am, is so supportive. If you have anybody in the city, it's like local fans, you know, fan base for everybody. We encourage everybody to do whatever you want to do. It's a city, but it's so close. It's crazy.
Okay, now this is another one of those times where my guests on my show are inspiring to me and fascinating to me, because instead of just sitting around wondering what to do, she actually did something and used her skills that she had, used the knowledge that she had, and did something with it. And, you know, something that some people would think of as a hobby or just something to joke around about. She actually went through with it and is doing very well. So if you want to read her book, Just the Tip, Ins and Outs of the Industry, it is available on Amazon.com. Go buy it now. And I promise you, Hey Bartender Podcast certified, you'll love it. Okay, this next clip is from episode 196, interview with Vicki Maygar. Maygar. Magyar. I'm really sorry, Vicki, if I butchered your last name just now. But I put out a question on Instagram one day asking people, first of all, do you think you eat healthy while you're at work? And 60% of the people answered no. And so I thought, okay, that's interesting. So I put out another question. If I could find somebody to be on the show that could give you a couple hints on eating healthy, acting healthier, would you like to listen to that show? And 100% of the people who voted yes or no said yes. So I follow Vicki on TikTok, and I've seen her say inspiring things throughout the day, eating healthy, working out, things like that. And so I decided to contact her and told her about the podcast and told her what my idea was, bringing her on the show. And she said she was a server for 10 years. And I'm like, awesome. You'll have no problem relating to my my community of listeners. And she says, oh, absolutely not. So I got her on the show, and what you see of her on TikTok is exactly what you get when you're talking to her face to face. She is just this amazing woman that makes you smile. And well, I'm not going to go off too much about that, but I digress. Here's a clip from episode 196, Healthy Tips with Vicki Maygar. Okay, so let's start there. The reason why I brought you on this podcast is to clue some of the people out there who still work in the service industry, things that they can do to lead a healthier life, improve their lives a little bit. Because, like you just said, can relate to that. Because when I was a bartender, it was eat if there's time, eat what's available, and I never thought ahead enough in order to think I should pack something, or, it usually ended up, you know what, it's going to be fastest if he just makes me a burger, and then I can just wolf that down and then get back to work. So what kind of disciplines did you set for yourselves in order to stay in that mindset?
Well, at first it was, I'm not going to, lie to you guys. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't always that way. I mean, we would come out with, if you know anything about Ruby Tuesdays, like, we were known for our burgers, so it's like, we're talking, juicy cheeseburgers with bacon and mayo and like all the fixings, it's just, you're smelling it all day. And the more hungry you get, the more you want it. You're like, screw my diet. Right. But for me, because of the fact that I was always an athlete, because I was someone who was always, health conscious, or someone who was, I've always been in the gym. There was times where, I was like, okay, is it really worth it? You know what I mean? Like, there's other choices available. I just have to be a little bit more disciplined. But where I got really disciplined was when, two different times. One, when I decided to become a personal trainer. So, I've had many different careers in my, 33 years of life here on earth. But at one point I decided I want to be I want to be a professional personal trainer, certified. So I did that, and I'm like, okay, but I was also working part-time as a waitress. And so that kind of motivates you, because you're like, here I am, someone who is going to be an example to my clients of making healthy choices. And I had clients who were in the service industry. I had clients who were, parents, single moms, single dads, who are like, I need things that are going to be easy for me, easy for my family, and also easy for me on the go. So I had to get into that mindset as well, because I need to practice what I preach. So that was the first time. The second time was when I decided to compete in bodybuilding. So I was a figure competitor. I did 2 competitions back to back. And I mean, you're paying for the suit, you're paying for the coaches, you're paying for the time in the gym. You're paying for that time on stage, the spray tan, everything. And it's like, are you really going to let it go just because you got a little bit lackadaisy in your eating habits? And so that was the motivation there. And I think at the end of the day, it all depends on, like, if you really want something, you're going to do it, right? I mean, we do things in life. We have jobs because, well, we need money to eat. We need money to live. We need those basic needs met. So I always have that as part of my, list of things in which I need to be met. So some people, and, I'm raising my hand right now. I know you guys can't see me, but I've been there too, where it's like, I push that priority aside because I feel like other things are more important than the food I'm putting in my body. But just the way we put gasoline into our car, we don't put sugar in our gas tank and expect it to go down the road and take us to where we need to go, right? Or we don't dilute it half and half and go a little sugar, a little gas. We need a full gasoline. We need the real good stuff. So it's the same thing with our body. The more we're putting junk in, the more it's going to start to like not move and not work and create other junk inside. So when you start to see your body is that way, even in the mix of being tired and working a shift and not having a lot available, or not, cooking a meal before you came, there's always something you can have that's a better alternative than, like a full large fry and a cheeseburger. So that's just something that kind of motivates me a lot, or did motivate me a lot, and still motivates me today.
Yeah, having goals seems to be your major thing, and so set proper goals for yourself. That would be something that people should be thinking about at least, I guess.
I would say, set. But no, that's good. That's perfect. I think what may throw a lot of people off is I know people can set goals. That's not an issue. Like anyone could sit down in front of a sheet of paper with a pen and and go, okay, I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to, lose a couple inches, or I just want to feel better and look better in my, clothes or whatever. But sometimes it's not, it's so far away that it doesn't seem attainable at the time. So I think the really important thing to do is set short little goals. Still have your major goal, like have that up there, but almost make a timeline and say, okay, this is my major goal, but what are those short little goals that are going to keep me motivated? Because if you don't have that, then it's really easy to get discouraged. It's really easy to kind of, for lack of better terms, like fall through the cracks, because you get discouraged. You don't see the progress right away. And then it's easy to fall back into old habits. And then another thing to piggyback off of that is it's a habit. And, there's so much research out there that says, I don't know if it's like 30 days, 60 days, whatever it is, to create new habits in your life. But it's the same thing as, let's say you get a new job and you have to check in at 7 a.m. and you're not a morning person, but you're like, I need this job.
Yeah. You
will start to train your body to, I'm going to get up. I'm going to go to bed a little bit earlier so I can get up a little earlier. And I'm going to set an alarm clock and I'm going to have everything set up, the night before, have everything laid out. And you do those things for those reasons, right? And it becomes such a routine that your body gets used to it and you start to flow. And before you know it, a month later, it's like your internal clock wakes you up at that time. Oh, you're not so tired. Oh, you get tired earlier in the day. You go to bed. You know what I mean? So it's just more so being a little bit consistent and disciplined in the beginning. And then it just revolves into your new routine.
Right.
So, yeah.
As you can see, Vicki is very, very knowledgeable when it comes to setting yourself up for success. All of us can set goals, but if we say in 5 years I'm going to do this, that's a really long time. And why not break that down in by months or even weeks? And you've got that main goal at the at 5 years. But where do you want to be next week? Where do you want to be next month? So it's very, she breaks it down so simply. And she's just an amazing woman to talk to. After we talked, she is she practices Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm kind of learning it right now. And so she and I got started talking about a lot of that stuff. And she's one tough cookie, but she's also very inspiring, and she is just amazing. So go check her out, her TikTok or her social medias. It's Slick Vic BA, and you'll understand everything. Listen to episode 196 first, get an idea, and then go check out her social medias because she's an amazing woman. Okay, so this next clip comes from episode 197, interview with Nikki. Now, this girl came to me. She was really, really excited about getting her own personal drink that she designed, that she made up, and having it put on her restaurant menu. And at that time, I was like, well, you're not going to get off that easy. I asked her flat out, do you want to be on the show and talk about it? And she was like, oh my God, yes. And that made me feel so good that she, first of all, contacted me and told me about her great success of getting her something that's hers, something that she made, put on a menu. And it made me feel really good that she was excited to be on the show to talk about it. So here's a clip from episode 197, interview with Nikki.
This happened very recently. So this started when I was, 20, 21, and I'm now late 20s. My parents came into the restaurant. I never tell them where I work. I hide like a little sneaky minx. And I finally was like, whatever, fucking come into the restaurant. This is going to be great. I'm going to make you eat my shorts. I wine and dine them. It was awesome. And then but it was outside. I wasn't bartending outside. I was bartending inside. So I was like, get over here. And they decided to freaking bring themselves inside. I was like, no one welcomed you here. You're supposed to sit outside. Like, cartoon. No one said you can move. And I was doing what normal bartenders do. Freaking shaking and mixing at the same time. That's what we do. And I was, chatting up with the customer, like talking to my other bartender. That's just it. And all of a sudden I see a light and I turn and my dad is recording me flashing, and our bar is pretty high. I'm 4'10", but my bar is still like almost at my chest. So you have to like jump up to hit no matter what shelf, like bottom to top. And he's talking, I can hear him talking about himself. It's like, she still got her athletics. She's jumping to the top. Like a fucking MLB, like as if he's Joe Buck, honestly. And he's like, I jumped down with a bottle and I'm like pouring it. And my mother's looking at me and my grandparents are there. And I look at him and I'm like, Dad, you're fucking embarrassing me. But it doesn't register in my head that finally they see what I do as being a career. And I am so, so, so fortunate that I started in like a farm to table California rustic restaurant and then moved up from there. And I need to make it very clear that it's not a bash on anyone who starts somewhere at like at a diner or a cafe. Like that has nothing to do with it. But I was very fortunate to kind of just to learn the way that those kinds of menus work. And my dad finally texted me and was just like, I'm so proud of you. I finally see, that this can be something that you pursue your whole life. We know that you wanted to do wine and you worked in the beer industry and, now you want to bartend. It was so big. It made such a big impact on the way that I feel about how I do things. And it felt really good. It was, again, the same way that my cocktail went on the menu. It was another confirmation that I'm meant to do this. I want to do this. I'm going to freaking steal the freaking bar program from my manager once he leaves, because I know he's leaving. And so you have to have conviction. You have to say, fuck what people say. Like, I don't want a 9-to-5 job. I get to wear a very cute freaking outfit. I get to work weird vampire hours. Like, you have to just not give a fuck about what people think. Mm. And all of that goes away because you say, I love this job. I love the adrenaline.
Now, that clip I thought was truly great just because I've, just like most of you that listen to this show, we work in the service industry and people always ask us all the time, why don't you get a real job? And this is a real job, but this was coming down from her parents. Now, her parents, I had kind of the same thing when I was bartending that my parents would say, why don't you get a real job? But unfortunately, during my time as a bartender, my parents never came into my restaurant to see how much I enjoyed it and how good at it I was. But she was lucky enough to get that and allow her parents to understand that it is truly something she loves to do. And that's the important thing about any job. You got to love what you're doing. And it was just a lot of fun to talk to her. And, earlier in the show, you find out that she was actually, she made it to the trials to go to the Olympics for weightlifting. And this girl's got a lot of drive, but, there's some days where she had to pick herself back up or she was nervous about something. And she was able to do it. And I admire that about her. This last clip I'm going to play you before last call comes from episode 198, interview with Cory Brim of Sugar Rim Bar. Now, in this clip, we talk about his friend giving him a little bit of advice before taking over the bar. He had been a server for some time, and it was pretty worthy advice. And, take a listen to it and try to see if it would help you because it's a great mindset. This guy is all business and he's very professional. And so check it out. Here's a clip with Cory Brim. No way they're going to think this is honest. Or even the female servers that I used, servers and bartenders that I used to work with, they were like, I don't go to the bank. It stays home. And then they get nervous about going to the store, paying for their groceries all in ones, and get self-conscious about that.
Yeah. And then I started bartending, man. I went from that to bartending. There was a guy that was training. I was a server. He was a trainer from another place. And he's like, dude, you make an awesome bartender. And the one thing, and now this is so long ago. The one thing, there were key pivotal people on my journey that helped me. Like the first guy, when I got that job at Chili's, there was a guy named Jimmy Flowers. I'll never forget him. He trained me how to be a server. And this was like old school, bro. This is like, there's no YouTube, there's no internet, there's no Facebook, you know what I mean? He taught me like customer service, and this is at Chili's, you know what I'm saying? Like he taught me like straight up how to treat people. And I'm friends with him to this day. I always credit him because if he never gave me that foundation, I really don't think I would, because service is really where it's at. I mean, that's, whatever we talk about, service is what we hang our hat on.
Right.
And that opened so many doors for me. And then there was this guy that, so I was a server. He saw me being a server. He's like, dude, you make an awesome bartender. And then that guy also told me, he said, listen, don't ever become a bartender. He said, always be a server. You're going to be a bartender, but he said, always treat people the same way you're treating people as a server.
Okay.
Because bartenders have this complex. You know what I'm saying? They got the God complex. Like, no one can make a drink better than me. I'm the everything. And they have that thing, which is cool. But he said, you'll go so much further if you look at it just like you're looking at it like a server, but serving them the drinks instead of the food. And that's something that always stuck with me. So I never became the, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I never became the mixologist. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't.
I hate that term personally. Are you a mixologist? I'm a damn bartender. What the hell?
A bartender, man. Yeah, what do you want to drink? And I was making more money selling vodka cranberries instead of, Saint Germain, elderflower, whatever, picking some leaf off a mountain in Japan.
Yeah.
I'm like, Margarita. Cool. Got it.
Yeah. I have no problem with these people that say they're mixologists, and their presentation of the pictures that they put up on Instagram or something like that. They're beautiful looking drinks, but I used to work in a higher speed bar, and I'm like, I wouldn't have no time to make that ever.
None.
And how often do you keep things like passion fruit in your well,
Yeah, exactly.
But that's cool. That's awesome advice to remember that you're a server to go behind the bar. I bet that made a huge difference.
It has literally served me well all these years, man. One of the great things that I think a lot of our clients really respect on us is that even when we do their events, we treat them, I'm not just saying this because I own the company. Really, like you can't teach passion. You can't teach integrity. Like you really have to have a love for people to do this business, man. And the greatest thing that I really love about the bartending business is, dude, no matter who you are, right? You can say that you love people, and you can say that I can mix drinks, and you can say all of that, but you got to get behind that bar and you got to do it. Right. You know what I mean? Like this is the one thing in life that, like, I mean, you could almost get away because, like, you could sort of hide, even if you were a chef, you can kind of hide your skills in the food. You can't hide it in bartending. Like you got to make the drink.
Yeah,
you got to make it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, this guy had a lot of people give him some great advice along the way. And he's very professional, and he's a really cool guy to talk to, honestly. After the show, we talked for quite a while, and he gave me some great advice on how to make this show bigger, what to do to be more successful with this show. And, the stuff is written down, Cory. It's going to happen, I promise. And he totally told me, go video. And I'm hoping with the next 100 episodes or so that I will get a stronger YouTube presence and try to bring Hey Bartender Podcast a little bit more out to the masses, gain some more listeners, and get some more cooler guests, because this is fun as hell to do. And as you've heard in the last 2 episodes, I've got some really kick-ass guests that have some great stories, and I'd love to hear more from the rest of the people out there, because there are tons of people out there that have great stories about working in the service industry and beyond. I mean, sure, everybody out there has started off somewhere. You got to start somewhere in life, and not, Ryan Reynolds was lucky enough to become an actor right away. But some of the people, as you've heard in past guests, they've had to spend their time waiting tables before they got their dream job being an actor or a musician, or they had to wait tables while they were going to school to become that brilliant software engineer or engineer of any kind. It's all got to start somewhere. And I love hearing these stories, especially when they have a great story about how they reached their goal at the end. And this is just a lot of fun to do. And I'm not saying you have to, move on to be the next Ryan Reynolds or Angelina Jolie or whatever. I mean, Bruce Willis, he started out as a bartender. You don't have to be the next big thing in social media or engineering or something like that. If you enjoy being a server or a bartender, then for fuck's sake, be a server or a bartender, because it's the old saying, you love what you do and you'll do what you love. And it goes for everything. But sometimes you gotta, as you've heard in other stories, you've got to go with the punches first before your dream happens. But don't ever lose track of that dream. Keep it right there on your shoulder where you can always see it, and maybe have a picture of it, your dream, on your wall. And that way, every day you look at it, every night you look at it, and just remind yourself, I'm working towards that. And a lot of the people that I've had on my show are just that. They said they wanted to be an author. They're an author now. They said they wanted to run their own business. They're running their own business right now. It's that pretty much easy. And, just like when I started this podcast, I sat back and I thought, I want to start a podcast. What do I want to do about it? And I, kept listening to other people's podcasts and thinking, that's pretty cool. That's a neat way to do it. And then all of a sudden it became, well, what do I want to talk about? What am I passionate about? And talking with people or talking about my own personal stories, it's of being in the service industry was the most fun that I thought I could talk about. But keep your eye on the prize, and you will get there eventually. Because when a podcaster that I talked to when I was maybe, say 15 episodes into this, he told me, just keep at it. Eventually things will start coming to you. Great advice I got from that guy. But anyway, people, it is last call for alcohol on the 200.5 episode of Hey Bartender Podcast. As usual, you guys absolutely rock. Okay, so right now I'm going to take a second to give a shout out to some of the bigger supporters on my Instagram page. It's at Hey Bartender Podcast. You guys have followed along with me and you've encouraged me a lot. Here's just a few of those names. I know I didn't get all of them, but here we go. At Leave Your Sword, you've liked a ton of my posts, and I appreciate you following me on this whole time. At Chinos_barbecue, at Burgundies _tail, at Bartender Books, at Mixo_brewer, at Slightly Derailed, at SoCali Bartenders. All of you people that are friends with Boogie, lives at sits and listens to podcasts with him. At Mia Torres Online, at _JOAR _ pinch _point 1980, Heather NG 27, Reese Wright Gunner, Gray Wolf May 71, and BS Looper. Oh, and the Bartender Dad. You guys have been also very awesome of liking my posts and making mention that my shows are coming up. You are only some of the people that are on there, but thank you so much for your support. And I'd love to do more shout outs a little bit later. But for now, this show's gone on way longer than my usual shows go. So we're going to end it here. Also, huge, big, absolutely universal thank you to Laura Hope and the Arctones for letting me use their song for the theme song for Hey Bartender Podcast, Dr. Bartender. Remember, you can find their music on Spotify, iTunes. Go check them out. They are an awesome rockabilly band. I mean, come on. You listen to that song when it comes up. Doesn't that make you a little bit happy? Come on. Please. But that's it for the 200.5 episode of Hey Bartender Podcast. I appreciate and love every single one of you. And as usual, like I've said the last 200 times, I wish you all lots of love, lots of sex, lots of happiness, and don't take any shit from anyone. Good night.
What do you mean it's last call? I just got here.